Something catastrophic just happened beneath the mountains of Iran, and it cannot be undone. Not on the surface, not in the air, underground.
U.S. B-2 bombers dropped dozens of 2,000-pound penetrator bombs targeting deeply buried ballistic missile launchers. Notably, we've also struck Iran's equivalent of Space Command.
Satellite imagery analyzed by NPR confirmed that Planet Labs photographs taken March 1st, 2026 show collapsed tunnel entrances.
If you look at this graphic, it shows all these red blobs of different access points through underground tunnels to an underground complex underneath that facility. Now, all can use the B-2 bomber with very big 20,000-pound bunker buster bombs. If you don't have those, Israel doesn't, then you use fighter jets with smaller weapons and you keep pounding away into the hole.
And destroyed buildings at a missile base in northern Iran. At Tabriz North Missile Base, strikes penetrated hardened underground infrastructure and caved in the entrances entirely. Caved in, not damaged, not dented, collapsed, sealed from the outside. And whatever and whoever was inside when those tunnels collapsed is now cut off from the surface, trapped in the dark, half a kilometer underground, with no food, no resupply, no exit. And America is only getting started on what it is doing to Iran's subterranean world, because the US just confirmed deploying a weapon the world has never seen used in combat before, specifically designed to reach what nothing else can. The question nobody wants to answer: what happens to the men inside when the mountain itself becomes their tomb? Before we reveal exactly how deep Iran's missile cities actually go, and why America's most powerful bunker buster bombs are mathematically incapable of reaching the bottom, what happened at Tabriz, Khorramabad, Kermanshah, and Isfahan when tunnel entrances collapsed, trapping missiles and personnel inside, why Iran's soldiers are now operating with as few as 10 rounds of ammunition each while IRGC commanders refuse to send food or medical supplies, what the CNN investigation into 107 tunnel entrances across 32 missile bases actually found about repair crews digging out blocked tunnels within 48 hours, why Iran rejected America's 15-point peace plan even while troops were stranded underground and supplies collapsed, and what the US just dropped into those tunnels for the first time in combat history that changes everything about this underground war. Subscribe, because what is happening beneath Iran's mountains right now is not just a military story. It is a story about geology, physics, men trapped underground, and the terrifying gap between what America's bombs can reach and where Iran has hidden its most dangerous weapons. We connect it, right now. Here is what Iran built underground and why the scale of it will leave you speechless. Iran has constructed around 30 distinct underground missile cities featuring over 100 interconnected tunnel networks. Located deep inside the Zagros and Alborz mountains with tunnels and bunkers reaching depths of up to 500 meters. 500 meters. That is 1,640 feet straight down into solid mountain rock. Missiles are stored, fueled, and even launched directly from these underground bases. The largest missile city is in Khorramabad in Loristan province. Another major site is in Tabriz in East Azerbaijan. Critical storage areas also exist near Kermanshah, Isfahan, and in the hills surrounding Tehran. Think about what is inside these mountains. The Yazd missile base, one of the most discussed sites, extends more than 1,500 feet into a mountain consisting of shirku granite, one of the hardest types of rock on Earth, which can withstand immense pressure far beyond that of conventional building materials. Inside the mountain, the interior space resembles more a hidden city than a military base, with automated railway systems running through cavernous tunnels, transporting ballistic missiles between assembly halls, storage vaults, and launch platforms. Not a bunker, a city, underground, carved into rock that has existed for 300 million years. Now think about what America is trying to drop on it. The United States military's primary tool for underground targets is the GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator, deployed by B-2 stealth bombers and representing the absolute pinnacle of bunker buster technology. Against standard reinforced concrete, the GBU-57 can penetrate roughly 200 to 250 feet. Sounds impressive. But against shirku granite, the rock that encases Iran's deepest bases, the world's most advanced bunker buster is mathematically capped at a penetration depth of just 20 to 30 feet. 20 to 30 feet. Iran's facilities are buried 1,500 feet deep. The gap between the bomb and the tunnel floor is not a margin of error. It is a physical impossibility, as military analyst Shanaka Pereira told The Statesman. The mountain does not care how many sorties are flown above it. The mountain wins. Here is what American and Israeli strikes actually hit, and why bombing the door is not the same as destroying what is inside. A CNN investigation reviewed satellite images of 32 Iranian missile bases, most of which are buried inside mountains, and found all had been hit by airstrikes, usually targeted at tunnel entrances, surface buildings, or road junctions. At least 77% of the 107 tunnel entrances CNN analyzed had been bombed. 77% struck. Sounds decisive. But here is what the same investigation also found. Construction equipment appeared at bombed tunnel sites within 48 hours, digging out blocked entrances and restoring access to the tunnel systems below. 48 hours. America bombs the door. Iran digs it back out in 2 days. America bombs it again. Iran digs again. Bomb. Dig. Bomb. Dig. An endless loop that costs America cruise missiles and costs Iran only shovels and labor. The Alma Research Center's January 2026 assessment found that strikes on surface infrastructure had only temporarily rendered large missile launch bases inoperable. Any Iranian asset located within underground infrastructure, the center concluded, survived. Any asset underground. Survived. Full stop. Think about what that means across 30 missile cities and 100 tunnel networks. Everything inside the mountains kept breathing. Everything on the surface burned. At Tabriz North Missile Base specifically, Planet satellite imagery showed tunnel entrances that had completely collapsed following strikes on March 1st, indicating strikes penetrated hardened underground infrastructure at this particular location. Collapsed. Not just blocked. Not just damaged. The mountain itself caved in over the entrance. And unlike a blocked door that can be dug out, a collapsed tunnel means the rock above has shifted. Analysts warned that destroying a main entrance could turn a facility into a tomb for missiles and vehicles, and precision strikes causing internal collapses could sever supply lines and trap vehicles inside. A tomb. That is the word analysts used, not a damaged base. A tomb. Now look at what the collapse means for the men inside, and what is happening to Iran's troops that nobody is reporting. Iran International reported on March 12, 2026, that Iran's military machine is under increasing pressure as the war intensifies, with IRGC personnel refusing to transport wounded soldiers to hospitals despite the availability of medical facilities, and frontline army units operating with minimal supplies of ammunition, food, and drinking water, refusing medical transport for their own wounded, while the tunnels above them collapse. Think about what minimal ammunition actually means in combat numbers. Sources described that some units received only 10 rounds of ammunition per regular army soldier, significantly limiting the military's capabilities in the event of a potential attack. 10 rounds per soldier, 10 bullets to fight a war. And the IRGC, the Revolutionary Guards who control the missile cities, who command the tunnel networks, who hold the keys to Iran's underground fortress, are prioritizing something else entirely over feeding those soldiers. Sources told Iran International that despite these shortages, the command structure appears to prioritize supplying the technical components needed to maintain missile systems over sending additional food rations or personal equipment to personnel. Missile components over food rations. The IRGC is keeping the underground weapon systems fed while letting the surface soldiers starve. And when those tunnel entrances collapse, the men inside the missile cities lose even that priority resupply. No food coming in, no wounded going out, no communication with the surface, just rock above and darkness below. Harsh conditions and what some soldiers perceive as neglect by their commanders have contributed to mass desertions, with soldiers leaving their bases en masse and seeking refuge in nearby cities. Mass, en masse, not individuals. Units abandoning positions. And those are the soldiers on the surface who at least have the option to run. The soldiers trapped underground when tunnel entrances collapse have no option at all. Here is where America escalated, and what it just dropped underground for the first time in history. Joint Chiefs Chairman General Dan Kane confirmed at a Pentagon briefing that the U.S. military dropped 5,000-pound penetrator weapons into underground Iranian storage facilities, and that these weapons, the GBU-72 Advanced 5K Penetrator, made their combat debut in strikes on hardened coastal missile sites. Combat debut. First time ever used in war. General Kane described them as weapons, bespokely designed to get through concrete and slash or rocks and function after penetrating those barriers. Function after penetrating. Translation: The bomb does not explode on impact, it punches through, goes deeper, then detonates inside. The GBU-72 is a precision-guided deep burial defeat weapon designed for hardened and deeply buried targets, using GPS guidance and a high-explosive warhead optimized for post-penetration detonation, developed to replace the GBU-28, which has been in service since 1991. Post-penetration detonation, it goes in first, then explodes, from inside the rock, inside the tunnel, inside the missile city. What happens to the men in those tunnels when a bomb detonates from inside the walls surrounding them? Physics answers that question faster than any general will. Videos taken at RAF Fairford in Britain showed US Air Force B-1 bomber aircraft being loaded with heavy bunker buster munitions, and military analysts interpreted this as Washington preparing to hit fortified underground facilities where Iran stores ballistic missiles and drones. Preparing. Present tense. The campaign against the underground world is not finished. It is escalating. General Kane also said U.S. forces are expanding operations eastward, penetrating deeper into Iranian airspace to hunt one-way attack drone units and eliminate remaining maritime threats. Deeper, further east, into the mountain ranges where Iran's deepest bases hide. Now here is the twist. The underground fortress is simultaneously Iran's greatest strength and its greatest trap. 5 weeks into the operation, and after striking more than 13,000 Iranian targets, U.S. intelligence assessed that America and Israel have degraded only about half of Iran's arsenal of missiles and drones, with roughly half of Iran's missile launchers still intact because of the underground bases. Half. Only half. After 13,000 strikes. The underground world protected everything it touched. But here is what Iran's leadership did not expect. In late March 2026, Tehran categorically rejected a 15-point U.S. peace plan that offered sanctions relief in exchange for severe curbs on Iran's missile programs, because to Iranian leadership, giving up the very underground bases that ensured their survival would be a suicidal concession. The tunnels gave Iran the confidence to say no. The same tunnels trapping soldiers underground, cutting off supply lines, entombing missiles that cannot be extracted, are the reason Iran's leadership keeps fighting. The fortress became the prison, and Tehran cannot admit it. Iran is now building roadblocks at the Isfahan nuclear complex with earthen berms, fences, and piles of rubble blocking 3 tunnel entrances. Construction that began on or after March 18, 2026, according to the Institute for Science and International Security. Iran is sealing its own tunnels from the inside, blocking its own entrances, to prevent a ground raid on Iran's stockpile of 400 kilograms of highly enriched uranium stored at Isfahan. Think about what that means. Iran is so afraid of a ground operation that it is voluntarily entombing its own nuclear material inside a sealed mountain, protecting the weapons, trapping everything else. One thing is absolutely certain. Satellite imagery confirmed collapsed tunnel entrances at Tabriz North Missile Base on March 1, 2026. The first visual confirmation of underground infrastructure failure. America's most powerful bunker buster, the GBU-57, can penetrate only 20 to 30 feet of Shirkuh granite, while Iran's deepest facilities sit 1,500 feet underground. The GBU-72 Advanced 5K Penetrator made its combat debut in strikes on Iranian underground storage, the first combat use of this weapon in history. CNN's investigation found construction equipment at bombed tunnel sites within 48 hours, digging out blocked entrances and restoring access. Iran International confirmed frontline army soldiers received as few as 10 rounds of ammunition each, while IRGC refused to transport wounded to hospitals. Mass desertions saw entire units abandoning bases for nearby cities. Iran rejected America's 15-point peace plan, despite supply collapses, because the tunnels gave leadership enough confidence to say no. Isfahan's 3 tunnel entrances are now deliberately sealed from the inside with earthen berms to protect highly enriched uranium from a ground raid. 5 weeks and 13,000 strikes in, America has degraded only half of Iran's missile arsenal because the other half is buried in mountains no bomb can fully reach. So here's what happens next. The surface of Iran is burning. The tunnels beneath Iran are collapsing, sealing, and becoming tombs. The men inside have 10 bullets and no food resupply. And America just deployed a weapon never used in combat before, designed specifically to detonate from inside rock walls. Whether the mountain eventually breaks, or whether the men inside break first, is the question that determines how this war ends. And right now, in the dark beneath the Zagros Mountains, both answers are happening simultaneously. Stay tuned.